Modern financial advice prioritizes the pursuit of multiple income streams. The suggestion to start a side hustle while managing a newsletter and flipping real estate ends up fragmenting your attention across dozens of half-finished projects. Splitting focus this way ensures you never master the skill sets required to reach the top 1% of any industry. You stay busy, but you stay broke, because moderate involvement generates zero leverage. Kevin Hart's trajectory relied on a singular focus. He spent 13 years driving between Philadelphia and New York, performing nearly 30 stand-up sets every single weekend, and refusing to pivot until his craft was absolute. Mastering one specific arena provides the visibility required to access every other room. By finishing the 13-year cycle on a comedy stage, Hart gained the leverage to negotiate for ownership in the industries he once had to observe from the outside. True leverage is a monopoly on concentration. You don't build power by being moderately involved in everything. You build it by becoming undeniable in one field until you own the entire building. Reaching this level of success reveals a transition in how capital moves. You stop selling labor for a paycheck and begin participating in high-stakes wealth movements that remain invisible to the general public. At the highest levels, billionaires rarely take isolated risks. They operate as a coordinated pack. When a viable opportunity emerges, they pool their capital, influence, and proprietary information into a single central hub to secure the win. This clustering allows the ultra-wealthy to share deal flow and guarantee their own returns. By the time 10 major investors back a new company, their combined networks have already increased the value of that asset exponentially. The average retail investor is systemically excluded from these early-stage opportunities, forced to buy in only after the insiders have already extracted the primary surge of value. Generational wealth is often blocked by this specific informational barrier. Without access to the pack, the individual remains a spectator to the real movements of capital. The moment an outsider generates enough leverage to enter these elite rooms, the dynamic shifts. The industry often treats newly successful talent as prey to be harvested, rather than partners to be nurtured. Gatekeepers employ complex legal structures and the promise of quick returns to separate uninformed creators from their equity. They offer the bells and whistles of stardom to mask the fact that they are taking control of the assets. Surviving this stage requires replicating the independent models of those who conquered the system before you. You have to move away from being a work-for-hire entity and start building your own internal machine. Jay-Z utilized this defensive blueprint by creating Rockefeller Records. By establishing an independent machine underneath the corporate conglomerate, he used their resources to scale while retaining ultimate control over his ownership and legacy. To transition from talent to institutional owner, you must accept that the system is designed to strip you of your gains. Your only protection is the independent infrastructure you build for yourself. Internal barriers often prove more destructive than industry sharks. Specifically, the ego acts as a primary gatekeeper, preventing most people from even attempting to join the pack. Everyday professionals often mask their financial illiteracy by prematurely labeling complex investments as scams. This defensive reaction allows them to avoid the discomfort of admitting they don't understand how equity multiples actually work. Breach the curtain by choosing to be the dummy in the room. You must vocalize your ignorance and ask the basic questions that others are too insecure to voice. Information asymmetry relies on a disparity in data. By asking uncomfortable questions, you systematically dismantle the advantage gatekeepers hold and force the elite to share the mechanics of their success. Wealth building begins when you trade the pride of appearing informed for the tactical advantage of acquiring actual data. High-level leverage carries a heavy psychological tax. You become a processing hub for a massive ecosystem, responsible for delivering direction and solutions to thousands of people who rely on your personal bandwidth. When you allow every external demand to be dumped onto your plate, the mind eventually loses the ability to breathe. Without a hard disconnect, the system reaches a point of total overload, a mental snap where the operator simply ceases to function. Protecting your survival requires the ruthless application of the word no. Enforcing absolute silence isn't a luxury, it's a tactical requirement to prevent the outside world from exhausting your remaining bandwidth. This creates a unique conflict. The relentless drive forged on a Philadelphia street corner to escape poverty is the same engine you must eventually learn to throttle just to remain sane. Shutting down the phone and ignoring the pressure of the pack is the ultimate defensive posture. It is the only way to ensure the machine you've built doesn't consume the person who runs it. Systemic power is ultimately measured by the boundaries you build. Success is meaningless if the machine you constructed ends up crushing you under its own weight.